Into the Shadow, a journey through Jungian archetypes, sleep, and meditation. Welcome to this quiet space where we journey together into the depths of the human psyche. Before we begin, if you find peace in this content, please consider gently pressing the like button and subscribe so we can continue creating these journeys for you. We'd truly love to hear from you. In the comments below, share what topics call to you. What philosophical ideas, what myths, what meditative explorations would help you find rest. Your voice shapes what we create. Now, let us begin. Tonight, we'll explore the work of Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist who discovered that beneath our everyday thoughts lies something ancient, something universal, something we all share. You don't need to stay awake for this journey. In fact, you're invited to drift, to let these ideas wash over you like waves on a shore as you move toward rest. Jung called this shared place the collective unconscious, a realm of symbols and stories that live in all of us, passed down not through books or teachers, but through the very structure of what it means to be human. Carl Gustav Jung lived from 1875 to 1961, a Swiss psychiatrist who founded analytical psychology, a school of thought focused on the symbolic, the imaginal, and the spiritual dimensions of the psyche. Tonight, we descend together into the shadow, through ancient myth and into a deeper understanding of who we truly are. Let's begin by taking a slow breath in and out and allowing yourself to settle into this moment. Feel the weight of your body. Notice where you're supported and breathe naturally, easily. Descent into the unconscious. Jung believed that our psyche exists in layers. At the surface is consciousness. This is where your ego lives, your sense of I, the part of you that's listening right now, the part that says, I am here, I am thinking, I am aware. This consciousness, this awareness, is only a small part of who you are, like the visible tip of an iceberg floating in a vast ocean. Just beneath lies the personal unconscious. Here rest forgotten memories, repressed experiences, the things you've pushed away or simply let slip from your daily awareness. A childhood memory that surfaces unexpectedly, a name you can't quite recall, feelings you've set aside, dreams from last night already fading. All of this still part of you, still influencing your thoughts, your moods, your choices, working beneath the surface of your awareness, but deeper still, far below personal memory, Jung discovered something extraordinary. The collective unconscious. This is not yours alone. It belongs to all humanity, an inherited layer of the psyche, shaped by millions of years of human experience. Not specific memories, but patterns, blueprints, ways of being, structures, built into the human mind, the way certain behaviors are built into animals, the way a bird knows how to build a nest without being taught. Jung noticed something remarkable. His patients, even those who had never studied mythology, would dream the same symbols that appeared in ancient Greek myths, in Hindu scriptures, in African folk tales, in medieval alchemy, in Aboriginal Dreamtime stories. The same heroes, the same monsters, the same wise guides, the same descents into darkness, the same quest for treasure, the same return transformed. These patterns appeared in the dreams of uneducated farmers and learned scholars alike, in children and elders, across continents, across centuries. He called these universal patterns archetypes, not fixed characters, but living structures in the psyche, templates for how humans perceive, feel, and imagine the great recurring situations of life. Birth and death, love and loss, creation and destruction, the journey, the battle, the transformation, the mother, the father, the child, the hero, the villain, the guide. Jung wrote that archetypes are like forms without content, empty vessels, waiting to be filled by the particular culture, the particular life, the particular moment. But the vessel itself, the shape, the pattern that is universal, that is shared, that belongs to all of us. Imagine yourself now, descending through these layers, passing through your daily thoughts, your to-do lists, your worries about tomorrow, sinking through your personal memories, the story of your life, the people you've known, the places you've been, and moving deeper still into something timeless, something that knows you and knew your ancestors and will know all who come after. Breathe slowly and let yourself sink down and down into the depths where symbols speak and myths are born. Meeting the shadow. In this deeper place, we encounter the shadow. The shadow is perhaps Jung's most famous concept, but it's often misunderstood. The shadow is not simply evil. It is not a demon to destroy. The shadow is everything about yourself that you cannot see or will not accept. All the qualities you've rejected, impulses you deny, desires you've buried, anger you won't acknowledge, weakness you hide, shame you carry, jealousy you pretend isn't there, but also creativity you've suppressed, power you're afraid to claim, wildness you've tamed, authenticity you've abandoned to fit in, to be acceptable, to be loved. Jung said that a shadow contains not just darkness, but unlived life, potentials waiting in the dark for you to turn and face them. Think of a child, full of energy, curiosity, raw emotion. They laugh too loudly, they ask embarrassing questions, they dance without caring who's watching, they cry when they're sad, they get angry when things are unfair. And slowly, they learn. Don't be so loud. Stop asking so many questions. Calm down. Big kids don't cry. Don't be so sensitive. Piece by piece, parts of the self go into shadow, not because they're bad, but because they don't fit the image we're learning to present. The shadow grows, and when we create a persona, the persona is your social mask, the face you show the world, your role, your title, your acceptable self. The good employee, the responsible parent, the dutiful child, the strong man, the nice woman, the successful professional, the spiritual seeker. There is nothing wrong with having a persona. We all need one to function in society. It's natural, necessary, human. But when we identify too completely with this mask, when we forget it's only a mask, when we believe this is all we are, the shadow deepens. Everything that doesn't fit the ideal image gets pushed down, and the more perfect the persona becomes, the more rigid, the more praised, the darker and stronger the shadow grows. Jung saw this illustrated in the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The respectable doctor with his perfect persona, his reputation, his control, and the monstrous Hyde, the shadow he couldn't integrate, couldn't acknowledge, couldn't accept as part of himself. The split led not to wholeness, but to catastrophe, because what we deny doesn't disappear. It waits, it builds pressure until it erupts. How does the shadow show itself in daily life? Pay attention to what irritates you in others, the qualities you judge most harshly, the behaviors that make your blood boil, that make you think, I would never. Jung called this projection. What you cannot stand in someone else is often a disowned part of yourself. The lazy person who triggers your rage may reflect the rest you won't allow yourself. The arrogant colleague may mirror the confidence you've suppressed. The needy friend may reflect your own unacknowledged needs. This doesn't mean you're secretly lazy or arrogant or needy, but there's a reason that particular quality bothers you so much. There's something in your own shadow that resonates with what you see in them. The shadow also appears in dreams as the villain, the monster, the stranger in the dark, the figure chasing you, the intruder in your home, the thing under the bed, the presence you sense but cannot see. Ancient myths understood this. They told stories of heroes who must descend. In Greek mythology, heroes like Odysseus and Aeneas and Orpheus journeyed to the underworld, the land of the dead, the place beneath, the world of light. In Mesopotamian myth, the goddess Inanna descends through 7 gates, stripping away her clothing, her jewels, her power, until she stands naked before her dark sister, Ereshkigal, queen of the underworld. In fairy tales, the hero enters the dark forest, where wolves prowl, where witches wait, where nothing is as it seems. These descents, Jung said, are journeys into the shadow, into the unconscious, into the parts we've left behind. The dragons, the serpents, the monsters with many heads, these are the shadow personified, the fears, the denied impulses, the unlived potentials given form. The dragon guarding treasure is the fear, guarding your unlived potential. The monster in the labyrinth is the part of yourself you've been running from, the descent into the cave, into the earth, into the depths is the journey inward. And the treasure at the heart of the darkness is not gold. It's integration, wholeness, the parts of yourself returned. Take a breath now and imagine very gently turning to face your own shadow. Not to fight it, but simply to acknowledge it exists. What have you pushed away? What qualities do you deny? What parts of yourself did you leave behind to be acceptable? Just notice and breathe. No judgment, no fixing, just awareness. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your wholeness waiting. Mythic encounters. Let me tell you, an archetypal dream, a story that lives in the collective unconscious. A traveler walks into a dark forest. Night is falling. Behind them, the village with its lights, its safety, its familiar streets, its rules, its expectations. Ahead, only trees and shadow and silence. This is the persona left behind. The social self, the mask, remains at the edge of the forest. Here, in the wilderness, it has no power. The forest is the unconscious, vast, unknowable, ancient, alive. As they walk, the traveler hears sounds, rustling, breathing, something moving between the trees. Their heart quickens. Every instinct says, turn back. But they continue. And then a creature appears, something wild, perhaps a wolf, with knowing eyes, too intelligent, too aware, perhaps a figure wearing their own face, but twisted, unfamiliar, a dark twin, a double. This is the shadow. The traveler's first instinct is to run, or to fight, to destroy this threatening thing, this unwelcome, unwanted, frightening presence. But something stops them, a voice, from deeper still, a knowing that violence here would be a kind of suicide. That's what they face is not separate from themselves. Then another figure emerges from the darkness, between the trees, neither threatening nor entirely safe, mysterious, compelling. For a man, she might appear as a mysterious woman, beautiful, dangerous, wise, offering guidance, but also challenge, the muse, the enchantress, the guide to the underworld. For a woman, as a powerful masculine presence, a wise man, a warrior, a sage, offering strength, clarity, direction, but also demanding courage and self-trust. Jung called these figures the anima and animus, the inner opposite, the contrasexual image in the psyche. The anima is the feminine aspect in a man's psyche, not feminine as in weak or passive, but feminine as in connected to emotion, to intuition, to relationship, to the inner world, to the unconscious itself. She appears in dreams and fantasies as the beloved, the muse, the mysterious woman, the guide. In myth, she's Helen of Troy, Beatrice, the Lady of the Lake, the fairy woman who leads the hero to the other world. The animus is the masculine aspect in a woman's psyche, not masculine as in domineering or aggressive, but masculine as in connected to agency, to reason, to assertiveness, to the outer world, to conscious will. He appears in dreams as the stranger, the lover, the wise teacher, the powerful protector. In myth, he's the prince, the wizard, the god who awakens or challenges or transforms. These are not about gender roles, not about men and women, but about psychological wholeness, about integrating the parts of the psyche that complement the ego's usual stance. The anima connects, a man's ego to his emotions, his intuition, his capacity for deep relationship, his ability to feel, to sense, to be moved. Without her, he's cut off from his own depths. The animus offers a woman connection to her assertiveness, her intellect, her inner authority, her capacity to act, to decide, to know her own mind. Without him, she's cut off from her own power. In the dream, in the forest, this guide figure speaks. Their voice is calm, clear. The creature is not your enemy. It carries what you need. And so the traveler does something they've never done before. Instead of fighting, instead of fleeing, they simply sit down on the forest floor in the darkness. They look at the shadow creature, really look, and they ask, "What do you want to show me?" At first, nothing happens. The creature watches. The traveler breathes. The forest holds them both in its ancient silence. And then, slowly, the creature begins to change. Perhaps it transformed to a wise elder. Perhaps it simply becomes less frightening. The wolf becomes a guide. The dark twin extends a hand. And it leads the traveler deeper through the forest, down into a cave, into the earth itself. They descend through darkness, trusting, surrendering the need to understand, to control, to know, until they arrive in a clearing, deep beneath the surface world, and in the center, something glows. A mandala, a sacred circle, perfect symmetry, light and dark, in balance, wholeness made visible. This, Jung said, is the self, not the ego, your small sense of I, your personal identity, your story, but the capital S self, the archetype of totality, the organizing center of the entire psyche, conscious and unconscious, persona and shadow, anima and animus, all of it held together in a greater wholeness. The self, Jung believed, is both the goal and the ground, the destination of the journey inward and the source from which we came. It was always there. We're simply returning, remembering. The self appears in dreams and myths in many forms, as divine children representing new beginnings, fresh potential, as wise kings or queens representing integrated authority, as sacred geometry, mandalas, circles, squares representing cosmic order. In alchemy, which Jung studied deeply, the self appears as the philosopher's stone, the goal of the great work, not actual gold, but psychological gold, transformation, integration, wholeness. Always it represents completion, not perfection, not the elimination of darkness or struggle or complexity, but the integration of all that you are into a more complete, more authentic, whole person. The journey Jung described, from ego through shadow, through anima or animus, to the self, he called individuation. The process of becoming an individual, not by separating from others, but by integrating all the parts of yourself, becoming undivided, whole. Not perfection, not the elimination of darkness, but the integration of all that you are, light and shadow, strength and vulnerability, logic and emotion, the known and the unknown. This is the treasure the hero find in the depths, not gold, not jewels, not power over others, but themselves fully finally, completely. And with this treasure, they return, back through the cave, through the forest, to the village. But they are no longer the same person who left. Integration and sleep. And now we return. Not by running from the shadow, but by bringing it into the light, by acknowledging that you contain multitudes. Jung believed that the shadow, when befriended, when accepted, when integrated, becomes a source of tremendous energy, creativity, authenticity, vitality, power. What you resist drains you. Keeping the shadow at bay takes enormous energy. Energy you could use for living, for creating, for loving, for growing. What you accept empowers you. The shadow, integrated, becomes fuel, becomes depth, becomes the fullness of who you are. As you prepare to rest, allow yourself to release the burden of being perfect, of maintaining the flawless mask, of pretending. You have no darkness, no complexity, no contradictions. You are allowed to be complex, contradictory, still becoming, still learning, still sometimes struggling. You are allowed to be human. Place a gentle light on the parts of yourself you've hidden, not a harsh spotlight, not judgment, but a soft, accepting, compassionate light. The anger you've denied, the sadness you've buried, the needs you've called weakness, the desires you've called selfish, the parts of you that don't fit the story you tell about who you are. Not to judge them, but simply to acknowledge they are there. They are you. They belong to you. Breathe in acceptance. Breathe out resistance. Breathe in wholeness. Breathe out the need to be perfect. Jung wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not who you should be, not who others want you to be, not even who you think you should be, but who you actually are, in all your complexity, in all your contradictions, in all your wholeness. The collective unconscious continues its ancient work right now. As you rest here, as you breathe, while you sleep, archetypes move through your dreams. Symbols rise like bubbles from the depths and fall back down. The psyche reorganizes itself, seeks balance, moves toward wholeness. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to try or fix or figure out. The self knows the way, the psyche knows how to heal itself, to balance itself, to grow toward integration. Your job is simply to allow it, to stop fighting, to stop resisting, to trust the process. Tonight, as you drift, you might dream of forests, of descents, of meetings with strange figures, of treasures found in darkness, of guides who lead you to places you didn't know existed. Or you might simply rest in the deep knowledge that you are part of something much larger, much older, much wiser than your personal story. You are connected to all who have ever faced their shadow, all who have ever descended into their own depths, all who have ever returned transformed. The heroes of myth, the seekers, the wanderers, the brave ones who said yes to the journey. You are one of them. Let go now of thinking, of analyzing, of trying to understand, of remembering what you've heard tonight. Simply be. Let your breath be natural, your body be heavy, your mind be quiet. The journey continues in sleep. The work continues in dreams. The integration continues in the darkness behind your closed eyes. You are safe, you are held by something much larger than yourself. The collective unconscious holds you as it has held all humans since the beginning. Thank you for walking this path tonight, for being willing to descend, to face the shadow, to seek the treasure of your own wholeness. Rest well and deeply. May your dreams be rich with symbols. May you wake knowing yourself a little better, a little more complete. And remember, as you drift into sleep, the shadow is not your enemy. It is your wholeness waiting to be seen, to be accepted, to be brought home. Sleep now and dream of integration, of wholeness